Welcome back to the Real Estate Den, episode 22. Today I have Evan and Derica. And are you guys feeling 22?
Getting
Feeling
getting there. Definitely. I'm only 24, so 22 is close enough.
I like
I
it.
stopped counting my age. I keep forgetting when people ask me.
I think there's definitely like a line. There was that late 20s. What was the last birthday you remember?
I'm at 27 now, but every time, I don't know. I think maybe 25 was what I remember.
That's about me too. About 25, I had to be like, wait, what year was that?
Yeah.
Well, Evan, tell us a little bit about you, where you're from, and what you do.
Really appreciate that. So, my name is Evan Carmen, and I'm a broker for Goosehead Insurance. Insurance kind of came to me. I did not come into insurance really thinking that this was my long-term path, but the more I see of it, I definitely feel like it is. Born in St. Louis, Missouri originally, and I went to school at Drake University over in Iowa. Shout out all my Bulldogs, smaller school, so folks know where that is. That's awesome. But came out to Colorado, and immediately one of the hot button issues out here consistently is insurance, and same across the country, in particular property insurance. Auto insurance is also a big deal right now. I think we're all paying about 3 or 4 times what we think we should be paying. So it's kind of where all that comes in. But either way, I've been at Goosehead for about 2 years now, and I've loved it. It's a fantastic industry to be in, and can't say enough great things about the folks that I work with at Goosehead, and then lenders, realtors across the industry, where we share mutual clients. So really appreciate you having me on here today, Megan, and the whole team. Really appreciate y'all's time.
Great, thank you. Derica, tell us about you, where you're from, and what you do.
Yeah, so I started out with branding and web design and all that good stuff when I was about 8. I don't know if you guys know Neopets or anything else like that, but I would log on late at night when I was young, and I'd start creating little designs just for fun. And my dad was a web designer, but he never taught me anything. Late at night, I'd just log on to his computer and use like Photoshop and all his systems. And after a while, I started getting really good at it. So he would come to me with coding problems that he would have.
Oh my
And I would help
God.
him do that. Yeah. So that was when I was younger. I got into it in 2017 professionally. I was working as a virtual assistant because I self-taught myself a lot of marketing, blogging, content creating, all that other good stuff because I wanted to have my own business. And I've seen other web designers start creating websites and charging a pretty good amount for it. And I was like, well, it doesn't really look that good. And I know I can do it better. And I know that I could actually give my clients what they wanted. And that's how I started doing it professionally.
Great. Well, we'll just get right into it. I have like just jotting down some questions as we go. I guess, Evan, my first one, and for lack of a better term, is what the hell is going on with insurance? Like WTF? We got our oh my God, what happened? Can you give us like a little bit?
My lender for my buyers was saying the same thing. She's like, I think I'm gonna have people stop for insurance before I can even before they put offers in. She's like,
Right.
So what's going on?
That is exactly it. Well, I appreciate you guys for leading me in with a easy one. I'm kidding. So
all of the insurance problems right now.
Right. Let's so I think we should probably start on the homeowner side of things, because I think that's where people are imagining things the most, even though when you look at the numbers, the auto rates are probably more out of control than anything else. Homeowners is the hot button topic right now because our home buying market depends on it. If insurance doesn't exist immediately overnight, most properties would lose 30 to 50% of their value. And so it makes it really, really important to start with a few numbers here. I love numbers. I love dicing down data. The average homeowner's premium this year in Colorado is $3,092. And that is for $300,000 of dwelling coverage. So that's not a huge home. We're talking about maybe 1,000 to 1,500 square. So there are a few reasons for that. To kind of paint the picture, 2020, 2021, everyone's at home. So nobody's driving, and everyone's catching all of these issues in their homes as they're happening. So if you have a hailstorm, you're going to know if you have a leak basically that day. There's nowhere else that you could be. And so insurance companies jumped on this as a wonderful opportunity to try and gain some market share, which it truly was. And these rates were looking really good, really up until about 2022 to 2023 or so, when these companies realized, oh crud, we might be in a little bit of trouble here. Not everyone's at home anymore. Lots of people are driving. There are these huge supply chain issues that are just jacking up the cost of labor and materials, either for fixes on homes or fixes on cars. And then if you remember that huge crunch on auto insurance, like we all saw our rates like double. And it was around the time we saw those market values of cars just skyrocket. All of these things came together and created a really unfavorable environment for insurance companies. The way the laws are set up, you can only make your rate increases or changes so many times, and a lot of these companies couldn't catch up quick enough. And so now we're starting to see the hangover of that these past 2 years, where our premiums have just shot up. You are seeing a high level of underwriting review on things. And so like homes that maybe 2 or 3 years ago you would have seen pass with no problem and get a policy for say $1,500 to $2,500, which is pretty reasonable here in Colorado. Now you might see, half of the companies in a given portfolio might decide, all right, we don't want to take a chance on the higher fire score, or it's nearer to a certain area that we're not insuring right now. And even if they are going to take it, it might be with conditions. Hey, this roof is 16 years old. We're going to only insure it at actual cash value, where if there's a claims payout, we're going to factor in depreciation and you're only going to get 10,000, something like that, right? We're just seeing all these different conditions. And so really I can sum it up into 4 general points to kind of put a bow on that. The first is just the general price shocks after COVID. That really drove a lot of prices higher, and that really the cost of labor and materials is a huge deal there. And the second point there is higher reinsurance costs. So insurance companies have insurance, basically. So it's called reinsurance. And what that does is it basically says, hey, say I'll name a random carrier. Let's just say like it's carrier X, right? If carrier X doesn't have enough money in their coffers to pay out in a given year, say that there was a huge hurricane and they serviced a ton destroyed by a natural peril, seeing a high level of hurricanes, the Gulf has gotten battered. Erica, as a Texan, you can speak to that a little bit. There has been a major catastrophe every year in Houston since I want to say 2015 or 2016, right? And so these really high rates of natural perils, which I am super happy to dive more in depth on, but I'll kind of hold for now. All 3 of those things are really forcing our costs higher.
Yeah.
And in terms of a future for the market, what we're hoping to see this year is really like a level of stabilization. So we want to see those increases start to stabilize.
That's fine.
Really, we want to see that level of stabilization in the marketplace start to come back. So stabilizing those increases, we're probably going to see underwriting remain tight in those high risk areas, like in Colorado, that's Boulder, the western part of Colorado Springs, Golden, those high fire areas. But generally, our headwinds are going to improve here. We are going to probably start to see the cost of labor and materials start to flatten out. And those reinsurance rates are probably going to start to flatten out this year too. And so if we see those things, hopefully we could see improvements in the market in 2025. We could see that underwriting start to loosen up so that we have more product in those tighter, more difficult areas. And we're already starting to see certain carriers prioritize growth right now, which is fantastic. So lowering their underwriting restrictions and trying to keep their rates either where they're at or even lower their rates right now is really what we're starting to see. So that's the goal, I think, for most companies, is to start to really just start to get back into that growth mindset, because we're starting to see really profitable business emerge last year a little bit, and hopefully we'll continue to see it this year. But that, I know that was a really long answer to your question, but that is really the reason why y'all have me here. And I think the reason why I want to talk about insurance right now, I want to hear somebody who genuinely understands the industry, like explain what the heck is even going on. Because right now, I think most consumers feel like, well, I pay this thing every single year. I've never made a claim, and you're really going to, 2x, 3x my rate over 3 or 4 years. It feels offensive. And honestly, as an agent, it feels offensive to me too. If I controlled the prices, I'd probably be a pretty rich man. But
Thank you for answering that. Cause like, I mean, most agents are going to be dealing with insurance, and because if you were the buyer, you have property insurance deadline, especially here in Colorado.
Exactly.
Derica, I want to switch kind of gears a little bit with you. You said that you're completely self-taught. And so I want to just ask you, because I think we hear that. We're like, okay, but like, how do you self-teach? Like when you were going to learn something, what do you do? What did you do to teach yourself all of your marketing and website skills?
Yeah. So it was very old school. I would look up on blogs. I would be like Photoshop tutorials or remove the background of an image, and I would look at graphics that other people had, or if they had really cool HTML, like really cool code blocks, I'd look at that, and then one by one I would piece it together so that I could get the final look that I like. It was easier because my dad had a system that, it was before like drag and drop websites, so Squarespace or Canva or anything else like that really. The system would let you look at it and build it visually, and then it would do the coding for you. So it was a little bit of learning that way too.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What year did you go? What did year did you start your business? And you said you specifically
Yeah.
help agents with their website.
Yes. So 2017, I got started with service-based entrepreneurs, and it was really interesting the way that a lot of people started to pivot to doing a lot of their business and a lot of their marketing online. I know that in the early 2000s, it was still a lot of in person, some online. Early 2010s, it was starting to get used to social media and websites, but I feel like people started to prioritize owning more leads coming through their websites and trying to drive their own traffic to their website to build up their email list, to get themselves out in front of more people that way. My sister-in-law is an interior designer / home stager, and she had me do her website, and then she recommended me to a real estate agent, and then that real estate agent recommended me to her coach who was coaching real estate agents, and then she started referring me out to her clients, and that's how I grew it.
Great. So you really impressed the socks off of those people. They just referring you out. What do you think is the number one issue with agents' websites? Like when you see an agent marketing, like what is your number one, like totally agent problem?
Yeah. Well, I think that a lot of people don't know why they should have a website. And so they think that their brokerage website or any website will just do. But if you look at any real estate agent or service provider or insurance company, really, and all the websites start to look the same, you can't remember them. You can't remember anybody. And then you're just going off of vibes or a recommendation or a referral. But if you don't have a recommendation or a referral, or you want people to remember you, then you need to stand out. It can't look like everybody else. It needs to look like you, and it needs to feel like the experience that they'll have when they work with you.
Man, and I definitely, I know from my experience, I can't do that. So like, we're glad we have you here to help us out.
Yeah.
I know I'm not the only one riding the struggle bus with that. Evan, you said you joined Goosehead about 2 years ago. Is that how long you've been in the insurance game?
That's exactly it. I am fresh. I'm a child still. So I graduated in May of 2022 from Drake University. And then I basically came right out to Denver. So we are coming up on 2 years now.
Awesome. So that was already after COVID. So I usually like to ask how things got impacted with COVID, but you all you know is what has been created from COVID. So you clean up the mess of the COVID.
I've heard wonderful stories about the way insurance was in 2020 and 2019, 21, et cetera. Like basically like companies will beg to place a client with them. Like we'll do anything to earn your business. And now it feels like the roles have totally reversed, where I'm on my knees like, please, we will mitigate all of the fire risk on this property. Please just take us for $10,000.
All of the trees away.
Exactly. We took down all the trees. We rebuilt the home with all metal. That'll be 22 grand for the year. Like, okay. Thank you, sir.
I feel the same when I talk to my agents about because I got licensed back in 2014. So like the year 2%, 3% interest rates. I'm like, man, God, if you give me another market like that, I probably won't waste it again. Please.
I will take advantage.
Golden. They're always, it's always way better when you recollect it than when you're living it too.
Mhm.
Of course, if I were
Right.
in a time machine, I'm sure it wasn't that easy, but it definitely.
When you're living it, it's midnight. It's like midnight on the phone trying to get it through. Like, I've got so much business right now. And then when you're out of it, you're like, oh, I was just drowning in business. I was living a good life.
Right, I was a
Yeah.
god. Just kidding.
Right.
So, Derica, you started before COVID, obviously, 2017.
I did.
Tell
Mhm.
us how your business and like how you kind of had to shift during that crazy change, especially being in marketing and like everyone's talking about, everybody went home. Like,
Yeah. So I actually took a break from my business to grow my family a little bit more in 2020. And while I was sitting there on the couch with my babies, I was like, man, there's a lot of opportunity right now. Right. And I just got back into it a couple of years ago, 2021, slowly eased my way back into it. And if I would have stuck through it, I would have been in a different place. But I'm happy that I did take the time away so that I could focus on improving my systems and processes and then creating some templates that could better serve agents that I don't have to constantly be working all the time to help people.
well, and I love that. And I think it's just important to realize that like business ebbs and flows. And
Mhm.
like, yes, we
Mhm.
strive to be consistent every day.
Yeah.
We need to have some sort of consistency every day as business owners,
Mhm.
but it's also like we're also in business, so we can do things like take a break to have a baby. I was just looking at
Yeah.
the lead board. My husband and I were working in the office this morning together.
Mhm.
I was like, gosh, what happened to my year? And I had a baby in March. So that's why I feel
Yeah.
like it's been,
He's
I'm
like, what?
damn.
Yeah, you had a
Yeah.
baby.
I
That
was
was very,
I was like, what happened to March and April? I'm like, oh, postpartum. That's what happened. Like, I felt bad. I had he came a month early. So I had like put out a bunch of posts looking for guests because I was going to get a
Mhm.
bunch of stuff done before he arrived, but then he arrived early. So I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I left y'all on red for a little while, but I didn't get in touch with you. 'Cause, like, oops. But
We'll take it this time.
Yeah.
That's acceptable just this one time.
totally works. Totally works. Well, cool. I always like to ask and see, what do you all do in the morning? Do you have any specific morning routines or rituals? We'll go ahead and start with Derica this time.
Yeah, I wake up. It depends. I don't have a set wake up time because of the babies. But if I wake up
Hear that.
earlier than them, sometimes 4, I'll start working or reading because I feel like I'm most productive in the morning. So it'll be working on the laptop a little bit, answering emails so that I can spend the rest of the day doing other things. Reading. I love to read as a hobby and for business. And those are the 2 things that I usually always do every morning out for business and for myself outside of family life.
What do you like to read?
Fiction, fantasy, some biographies, business books. I just finished 100 Million Leads by Alex Hermosi. That was really good. And another book called We Should All Be Millionaires by Rachel Rogers. And those really moved the needle in my business this year.
Great.
awesome.
We'll have
Yeah.
those linked to the notes. Evan, do you do anything specific in the morning?
Try to survive. No, I'm kidding. I feel like most of my morning routine is oriented around like how do we get 100% out of the day. I'm not a morning person, but if I kind of force myself into it, I can be. So it starts just trying to wake up earlier than I probably should, right? Like my body will naturally wake up around 7 to 9 a.m. I'm
Yeah.
trying to get it up around 5:30 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
If at all possible, I love to move in the morning. So going for a walk, going for a run, lifting some weights, whatever that might look like, whatever kind of strikes my fancy. One of the best parts of living in Denver is that it's nice weather about 80% of the year. And so I can usually get outside in the mornings. From there, shower every day, espresso, and then usually kind of get out the door by around like 7:15 or so to try and get into the office. I like to work early in the day, similar to you, Derica. I feel like my brain works a little bit better for the hard stuff early in the day. So anything that I can't kind of flow through, I want to get out of the way right when I get to the office. It's like the tougher client calls, maybe delivering bad news, things like that. We want to try and get it out of the way early, but then we can just kind of flow through the rest of our day.
rip it off like a Band-Aid.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'll be most nervous to do it in the morning, but you kind of compound all the rest of how nervous I would be throughout the rest of the day. It's better.
Feels better
Yes.
to get it over with. Yeah.
And you're able to give better energy or fuller energy or your full attention to the other stuff that needs it.
Exactly. I think probably similar in real estate, it's so easy to get pulled a million different directions on any given day. In insurance, I mean, you think about it, my goal is to close 30 to 40 new clients, new accounts a month. And so, right, that it just adds up a lot. So it really, you have to be pretty savage with your time management sometimes. Like you just have to be very direct to people.
I think it's Brian Tracy writes the book Eat That Frog, and it's about doing the hardest thing first in the
Mhm.
morning. I was like, I think that
Exactly.
is that name.
Nice.
If you could go back and tell yourself one thing, if you knew then what you know now, what would
Mhm.
that piece of advice be to you at the beginning of your career? Go ahead.
Oh,
Evan.
okay. Yeah.
Derica was like, passing to you, sir.
Alley-oop. So best bit of advice that I ever saw came from a random either Twitter response or TikTok comment. It was so ridiculous. You'll find these amazing points of wisdom on social media where it's a tweet that went around recently. They were like, you never know if it's a random response tweet or if it's like in the Bible or something. They can just
Mhm.
but really the time will pass anyway.
Mhm.
Like just do it anyways. Do whatever you want to do with your time, with your life, because the time is going to pass no matter what.
Mhm.
And so it's like sometimes we'll look at something and be like, this is going to take me weeks. Good. The time is going to pass anyway.
Yeah.
This is going to take me years to build my business. That's
Mhm.
fine. The time will pass anyway. The point is like you need to do what you want. The timing won't always be right. It's just going to pass anyway.
Mhm.
I love that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That's
Derica,
a really good one.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that one's a really good one. I would say there's a couple things that I would say. One would be to save everything that you make and make it really accessible later so that you can look back on where you started and where you are now. And sometimes you'll find a lot of good nuggets back in the stuff that you created earlier and be like, wow, I should have saved that, or I could still use this today because of what it is. It could be a blog post or a form of content or anything else like that. I think it's important to make sure that the stuff that you create, even if you don't think it's great now, it could be useful later. Somebody else could really appreciate hearing it. And part of what Evan said, just keep going, even if it's a little bit of progress or a tiny step forward. It's better than no step forward or no progress. So that's what I would say.
Yeah.
I love that.
Mhm.
Yeah, wow. The answers are never the same, and I'm always getting like, oh, that's so great. And then I have a quote on my desk here. It's from Earl Nightingale. Don't let the fear of the time it will take to accomplish something stand in the way of you doing it. The time will pass
Mhm.
anyway. We might just as well put that passing time to the best possible use.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Nice.
So that's
Yeah.
great.
Yep.
It's literally like right here, like where I can say, oh, I do like that quote. Wow. Great. Where can our listeners find you if they want to connect with you and get more information and learn more?
Derica, you're the social media specialist. You
Yeah,
lead that
yeah,
here.
yeah. Derica Hack, that is my real last name, Hack. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok, and then that's also my website name, dericahack.com.
I love
I have to be honest, I might need to consult with Derica after
Mm.
this. My social media is not in the place that I would like it to be. You can find my personal Instagram, which I'm never on, at Evan Del Carmen. My business Instagram, probably a better place to find me at insuring.denver. Although for clarification, I do work in almost every state. It's just that I specialize in Denver. I actually do quite a bit in Texas and Missouri. But and then I suppose again, I don't ever post. Y'all could find me on Facebook, Evan Del Carmen. I don't really have a website or anything like that, but best place to find me is probably my phone number.
Derica's like, I
720.
could do so much for you right now.
Right?
Right. Like,
Oh my gosh. Like she's like, just give me one call. Give me one
yeah, I'll do a consult for you.
Right.
You both had mentioned reading. Do you guys have any sort of like podcasts or books or things that really have helped you inspire you and build your business that you'd like to share with everybody?
Totally. The next big idea is freaking fantastic. It's podcast and basically just talk about big ideas. Like they're back to back. They had one that was like what your 20s feels like, and then the next one was the root causes of the American Civil War. So they're all over the place, right?
Yeah.
But they're great. The Dax Shepard podcast.
Mhm.
It's called Armchair Expert. He has a bunch of cool guests on, and I really admire the way he looks at the world. I really used to like one, forgive my French, called the MFCEO podcast by Andy Frisella. That one's like very hardcore, very aggressive, like get after it. You're not anything. It's good if I'm feeling lazy in the morning. In terms of books, I'll shut up. The Slight Edge by I think it's Jeff Olson
Yeah.
is one of my favorite books of all time. Basically, the power of compounding interest when you look at it either for your money or for your your skills. Really powerful. And if anyone wants to look at natural perils in the insurance world, I highly recommend a book called The Great Displacement. It has about a third of it is dedicated to what insurance will look like in the 21st century amidst a rising level of billion-dollar events, which is what we call weather events that are bad. So highly recommend that. It's not as doom and gloomy, I don't think, as it might portray in the book, but at least it'll give you a pretty good sense of like, all right, these are the headwinds that we're facing in the industry.
Very cool. Derica?
There's one that I started listening to recently. It's called Billion Dollar Creator. And it's nice because you could take one business and look at it and say, okay, that's smart, that's nice. But then they break it down and say, okay, if you could 10x this, right, or make it a $1 billion brand, what are the steps that it would take to get there? So I feel like it takes me out of like the smaller day-to-day thinking or yearly thinking and kind of gets me to see a little bit further into the future.
That's awesome.
I love that. What is one thing that you wish you had started doing sooner?
I think starting. Honestly, I think starting. I got into it because I thought that, oh, well, they're already doing it, I should do it. And then I finally did it. But I feel like I could have come out the gate starting to do what I wanted to do instead of waiting for the perfect opportunity. I think that's the biggest piece. Just go ahead and start doing it. It doesn't have to be perfect. You just have to start somewhere.
I love that.
I think most people in their 20s and 30s can relate. Taking good care of my body. You know, no more. I mean, you always have the random, Friday, Saturday, whatnot, but not having really late nights, trying to reduce the amount of overall alcohol intake, working out, eating better, all the little things that really add up. It's so frustrating. Like all the things your parents told you were true. It's like, that's just the worst, man. I thought I had like a shortcut here where like I could sleep 5 hours a night and slam a Red Bull and I'd be fine. As it turns out, that only worked when I was 19.
Yeah.
So yeah, taking good care of the body, I think, is a big one. And I don't think a lot of people my age are doing that.
Yeah.
Definitely not in college. Certainly not.
What do you wish you had stopped doing sooner?
I think comparison.
Oh, I love that.
So great.
Go ahead, Derica. Yours is
Well, I deleted Uber Eats actually, but I still have all the other good ones.
Need to learn from you.
But yeah, no, I think comparison is what held me back for a while. And even now, in any business, any industry, you could take a look at somebody that's posting all their wins, right? And they don't always advertise the losses or the being upset about the rejections that you can get sometimes. Or you could take a look at them and say they're so far ahead in their business, they're closing more deals, they're getting more leads than I am, and kind of beat yourself up about it. I think it's important to realize that it's cliche, but you are only competing against yourself. Like, you can't always be them. You're not supposed to be them, but you could push yourself to be the best version of you. That's what attracts people to you. That's what gets your business to the next step instead of trying to always do what the best person is doing.
Oh my gosh, that's like the best.
Comparison is the thief of joy. It makes you, think that you don't have what other people have.
Yeah.
Or you're not doing as good as other people. And that's not,
and
I'm not competing with anybody, so it's like, who cares?
Well, it's
equal, so it's,
Yeah, and don't compare your outsides to somebody else or somebody else's outside to your inside. Like
absolutely.
Everything looks better when you're looking at it from outside. Everything. I mean, it's like you're always gonna feel scared, anxious, like you're dropping the ball on something, I think. It's like the quote in The Little Prince: if you compare yourself to others, you'll become vain and bitter. It's not vain or bitter, because you're always going to be better than people and worse than people. You'll be vain if you're better than them and bitter if you're not. Gosh, that put mine to shame. I said Uber Eats. I said Uber Eats. So,
he's like, I would have been saving that delivery charge.
like, $50 for some 2 delivered burgers is really
it's still a good one.
But if I don't want to do it every night, I mean every single night, I'm sitting there going, I could just hit DoorDash.
And honestly, I have no self-control. I remember when I was pregnant with my first daughter, like I've only got one daughter, so the only daughter. We lived in Longmont. And so I was like, we were in the city and I could DoorDash Snickers to my door if
Mm.
I wanted to, and
Mhm.
I would DoorDash a lot of food, and I felt bad about it. And then we moved to where I live now, which is in a rural area. We
Mhm.
no, like I can't even get groceries delivered. We're 45 minutes from the grocery store. Like we have
Right.
acreage. Like
Yeah.
we live in the middle of nowhere now. And I don't give a shit about all the money I spent at DoorDash before. I really don't. I have zero because
worth
when I was pregnant with my son, I was like, I would murder somebody if somebody would bring me some food right now. Like that would be fine.
Oh man.
I have
You
no
have to-
thought because when I was on the front range, I was like, oh, someone could bring me a Starbucks. Bring me a Starbucks. Like,
That's it. I think genuinely one thing that should be quit is TikTok for me. I gotta stop scrolling for so long
Mhm.
too, right?
Yeah.
All the trappings of modern life that make it so
Mhm.
fun. I've got to get rid of it. So
posted on my status, the best videos on TikTok, in my opinion, are where they clean those really dirty ass rugs.
oh
Mm.
yeah. And they've
That-
got like Family Guy playing next to it or something.
Just to get your ultimate, like just put you in the zone, man. Yeah, I don't
As
know what it
much
is.
Yeah.
dopamine as we can jam into your
Yeah.
synapse right now, we're gonna do it.
Every time I see those little white freaking boots and that sprayer, I'm like,
Yup.
baby, there's a new dirty ass rug. I'm so excited.
Have you seen the guy that SB mowing? He does lawns. He'll walk around and he'll look at a home and be like, if it's like, vacant, he'll go and he'll ask the neighbors, hey, can I mow that lawn? Is anyone there? And he'll do it. It's awesome. It's very
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll have to check that out. And then my favorite Lee County Sheriff in Florida is hysterical.
Oh, really? I'll have to check
They-
out.
They
Lee
put like
County.
these signs in front of the houses. They're like, this drug house is closed, and they did like a whole compilation of them arresting people to a Fergie song. Can you imagine getting arrested by Lee County
Oh, no.
to a Fergie song? I
I'd be
mean,
pressed.
and then like the sheriff was saying something like I ate or something. Like it's just anyway. Lee County
They're
Sheriff.
very Gen Z.
They're
Gen Z.
very
sheriffs.
it's hysterical. But yeah, the
Love it.
TikTok is we know we want to talking about TikTok.
Yeah, we want our DoorDash and TikTok.
I know, just
Right.
all of the modern wonderful modern things of this world. Well, do you guys have any last thoughts for our audience before we hop off here? This has been an awesome hour.
I would love to share a few Colorado specific pieces of advice for people with insurance.
Great.
First is try and spend a little bit more for whatever the peril is in your area. Try and spend a little bit more for construction that will, meet that. So Colorado and down in Dallas, you too, Derek,
Mhm.
tons of wind, tons of hail.
Mhm.
So having a class 4 shingle roof, if you're going to go
Mhm.
shingles, it can honestly take $1,000 a year off of your insurance.
Wow. Okay.
It really is very significant,
Okay.
depending on the company. And then fire resistant architecture for my folks up in the mountains, like the Front Range, pretty important in mitigating a lot of that risk, killing the brush, taking down any dead trees, super important. Start the insurance process early for everything. If you need insurance today and you're working with a house, middle of nowhere, Grand Junction, nearest fire department's an hour and a half away, we're probably in some trouble. But if you give me 2 or 3 weeks to try and figure that out, I bet we can do it together.
Yeah.
The last one, and this is only if it's applicable to you sort of advice, but if you have a little bit more spending money, I recommend that some clients will carry higher deductibles. If you can afford to pay $2,000 to $10,000 for a claim out of pocket, that is likely the direction that the insurance industry is trending a little bit. Just because, we're seeing minimum wind and hail deductibles of sometimes $5,000, $10,000 in Texas and across Colorado. So unfortunately, I think we're probably returning to a model where for insurance, like the idea of insurance is really more what dominates, where it's, hey, we're going to help you if worst case scenario goes wrong. But, like we can't be making a random claim for, I don't know, a rat that chewed a hole through your electrical wire in your kitchen. Well, that's just me personally. You probably will not hear that advice other places because it's also like, hey guys, good luck, pay more in the event of a claim. But that's kind of my personal insurance philosophy. Home, auto, whatever it might be. Like, I think I'm always going to carry a higher deductible. I know I'm probably just going to have to pay a little more out of pocket later, and that keeps my costs lower now.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I like it.
Any last words, Derica?
Yeah, I would say as early as possible. I think that ditching your brokerage site and focusing on what makes you different, trying to look different and sound, well, not going overboard with trying to be different to where you're obnoxious, but keeping that in mind, that it's okay that real estate agents have like a typical real estate agent look, but that should not be the goal. You should keep your personal identity and what makes you and draws clients to you, put that at the forefront of your marketing.
Great.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us for episode 22. We will see you next time.